from the stream.
Yeah, to be honest, it was a track that you could race on kind of thing. The bottom was quite slow, unless you really wanted to like set your car up really tight, but the top was the fastest way around, and you know what? That's pretty much perfect for a wingless, because obviously we got no power, right? So
Yeah.
normally the fastest way around is the bottom, because you know you've got no power to go around the top. But when the bottom was so slippery and the top actually had a cushion and was grippy, everyone was running the top.
Yeah.
And it was
Heaps of sliders and stuff too, which is like...
yeah, in the heat races you could see someone start like 8th and they railed around the top and got to like into the top 3.
Yeah.
You just don't see that anywhere, and it's like
Blake Walsh went deep to front, didn't he, one night?
the last night.
Yeah.
I think so they changed the format for the last 2 nights because the track wasn't really holding up for the sprint cars. So we went to like a 2-heat format, and I think he won a heat, and then something happened in the
I think
second.
I got caught up or something.
Yeah, and he DNF'd the heat. So I think he won the C main and got like second or so in the B main.
Yeah.
And then the A main was pretty slippery on the bottom, and like, you know, I was coming 18th at one point, and like 3 laps to go I got to 8th because I just decided to run the bottom and don't know, it stuck. But like everyone was racing around the top, and he got to I think like 6th or 7th.
Yeah, I think he got... Yeah. It was a good run. That car's like fast up there.
That's his car. Was his car kind of thing.
Is it as fast there as it looks on like stream?
Like, what do you mean by fast? Like, as in like what?
Like the how do you say it?
It reminds me of a cross between Speedway City and Murray Bridge, the track.
Yeah, right.
But you can hold it flat around the top.
Because you know how like sometimes you're at Speedway and you see wingless and you're just like watching them go around.
Yeah, let's be honest.
the
Like
track.
when they had a little bit of a, well, I guess rookies going around, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but like on pay per view, the wingless look fast there though. Like
Yeah, so like the normal, say, gearing we'd run at Murray Bridge, we were running like less. So essentially the wheels were spinning faster, but the engine was still rotating the same. And it was pretty much flat out. Like, to be honest, it felt kind of like Warrnambool, to be honest. Like that track, you hold it pretty close to flat out and you go, once you wind up, it takes a while to wind up, but it felt quick there. But I don't know if that's because we were running a bit closer to the fence or whatnot. But it's some tracks suit wingless kind of thing. Like, I think the more flowy tracks that are wider actually suit wingless. So you've got say Mildura, it's pretty flowy and wide. Murray Bridge, Warrnambool. People say that, you know, they're too big, like for a wingless, but the fact that you can wind it up, I guess, and get going, they end up going a lot faster because then you can pull the slide job kind of thing, and there's enough room. Whereas because the engines are a little bit underpowered, when you have to get on and off the gas, that's when, you know, if you're getting on and off the gas and sliding in front of someone like really aggressively and you're both going slow, then you both have to wind up again and get going.
Yeah. I think actually I'm pretty keen to see Portland with wingless. Yeah, that's got some more banking in it. I think that'll be cool for him. I think.
No, Portland. I think I saw a sprint car go around there recently. I think it was Hallett. Yeah, I watched them. And he was, well, not recently, but a couple of years ago when they did the upgrades, and it definitely looked a lot better than it was before.
Yeah.
And they got the state Victorian title
Victorian title was there the same night as Murray Bridge 60 lapper.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit of a pity they couldn't.
Yeah.
You've only got so many weekends in a year, but...
Yeah, I don't you know...
I guess you'll know where I'll be at the Victorian title, but...
I know when I first read it, I was like, oh man, it's disappointing, but I understand too. You're not going to get both lots of cars coming to the one venue anyway.
No, and yet...
all the cars that are the Victorian title doesn't necessarily mean that all of those cars will come across for the 60 lapper.
No, so that's...
And vice versa, obviously.
Well, you'd look at it that way, you're like, well, last 60 lapper we might have had 5 Victorians. And if anything, you'll lose SA cars, like the quick SA cars that want to try and win Victoria 1.
What's a 60 lapper pay though? Like $5,000, doesn't it?
I don't think so. Maybe 1,500.
Oh,
it's not that. It's basically wouldn't you rather run a number 1 on your car than? Well, not that you can run.
Well, I mean, I'd just be happy to pinch anything from Victoria, to be honest. So.
I'm sure they don't like it when a South Australian goes over there and wins their title. But then, that being said, before Tyson won the last 2, I'm pretty sure the store has had it wrapped up with the SA title for a few years. And then Chadwick obviously had it before
they're
that.
kind of close enough to Mount Gambier there. We could maybe blend that line a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. But they're from Portland too, which, yeah.
Yeah, we can sort of blend that line there a little bit. Like, I mean, there's a few cars around there that are registered in SA anyway, so
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can sort of let that one slide. So obviously, Will, your family is just rooted deeply into Speedway.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously started with, well, but actually, from what I can remember, like, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure. So Leo, who's Mark and Steven's dad, they raced the 360s and 410s. I'm pretty sure he had the first Speedway type car in the family. I'm only rehashing what my dad has told me, but I think he might have raced it for maybe 6 months to a year. I don't know how good he kind of was, but basically my dad took over pretty much straight away.
Yeah, right.
And ended up jumping in back at, I think, was it Speedway Park days, like early 90s, if not, might have even been earlier. It was I don't even know, it looked like a junior sedan, but obviously it was a senior class, so I don't exactly know what it was. Then my dad obviously started with, obviously in the super sedan. I don't know, like, don't quote me on all the cars he went through. I think he went through about 3 different ones. He obviously ended up with the Stevie Stewart, like, Pontiac, that he kind of raced into the early 2000s before he retired. But when he kind of took over all the racing, everyone kind of just focused around him. And that's how Mark and Steven actually got really interested in it. They actually used to be his crew.
Yeah, right.
And then from kind of there, essentially my dad raced a bit. Mark came into an AM car, I think, for a little while. Not sure exactly how long that was. Might have been a season or two. And then he kind of jumped into a 360, roughly around the time when I think my dad was, like, retiring from the super sedan. I'm not sure what they did engine-wise, but it might have actually been that he might have actually had a super engine or something type in there, because obviously the super sedan you could run pretty much whatever.
Yeah.
I think something might have happened when the engines. I'm not quite sure, but basically my dad finished. Mark jumped into obviously a 360, raced that for a bit. Then obviously now he's got a 410 as well. But I think then Stephen obviously came in, because naturally, your older brother's racing. Stephen's probably like, well, I want to obviously race, because they used to race karts as well. Like, we've all basically come from dirt karts, and now the second generation of families obviously racing dirt karts too. Like Mark and Stephen's kids are racing, but basically, yeah, they kind of were in sprint cars and whatnot. They still obviously are racing 360s and 410s, like, locally in SA. And then it was, I don't even know how I ended up in it. It was like, kind of like I was racing dirt karts and got to the point that, this class called wingless existed. The dirt karts was at Speedway City, basically in the car park, and I was like, well...
So this is like ADCA style karts?
ADCA style karts. Yeah. It moved... Basically, I went and watched, and a couple of other dirt karters, like, jumped in wingless, and they were semi-competitive, and I thought, well, Mark and Stephen had got 360s at that point. It was basically that season that I jumped in, it was like Ryan Jones and Stephen were winning absolutely everything in 360s. It was just them two, and obviously I thought, well, you know what, maybe I'll buy some second-hand parts from them and put a car together. And then I did, and yeah, that's kind of, was that like 2012, I reckon? And then, yeah, then I've just decided to continue on since then.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's pretty full on. Like, everyone actually still races to an extent, other than my dad. Like, obviously, I'm one of 4. And yeah, I've got obviously our brother and sister, and they still race dirt karts as well. So everyone's still got, like, obviously yesterday I think my dad was at a dirt kart meeting, and obviously Mark, Stephen were there too. And every weekend, I guess, if we're not, I don't know, sleeping, we're at some type of track and something on dirt, having fun. Right. Yeah.
So there's no, like, history of Speedway before that generation? Like, it's not, they weren't...
No, because basically my dad's parents came from Italy, so maybe they were racing mopeds. I don't know. Like I got no idea, but like obviously they moved over and it was there.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's yeah, they probably will do it.
It'd actually be interesting. I should sit down with Dad and actually asked him why he actually chose Speedway. But to be honest, I'm pretty sure it's from memory. He said he was working at a mechanic shop, kind of thing, and someone there, obviously growing up around like Salisbury, or whatnot. I think like he basically knew of like the McCarthys, the like obviously Millers and all that. Back in the day, they all were kind of together, and they just got involved and like really moved on from there.
Yeah. Depending on what generation they are, like, obviously well and truly before our generation, like, everyone just used to go to Rolly Park on a Friday night.
Yeah.
It's just like Adelaide just went there. That was the thing. Like, I talked to so many people that were like, not interested in Speedway. They're like the biggest casual fan ever. They just go to Rolly Park on a Friday night. Like, that was just the thing
like,
to do. Like, yeah.
Well, he even said, like, back in the day, he's like, Speedway was just the thing on Friday. Like,
Yeah.
you would just be there kind of thing. It was kind of, obviously, bigger than all the other sporting codes at the time because they didn't really exist. And everyone just went there.
Yeah, I was speaking to a guy who was telling me that he used to catch a tram. He used to knock off work at 5 p.m. in the city, run out the office and catch a tram down to, like, Rolly Park. Like, yeah, it was like...
Oh, yeah.
Those days are just well and truly gone now.
Yeah, well, exactly. It would be great if you had, like, a city venue that you could just jump on and do that. But, yeah, it is what it is. It's just be interesting the next 5 years to see where the sport kind of goes.
Yeah, I think the next 5 years is going to be
Make or break, yeah.
very tough. And like not just for Speedway too. I think for a lot of like entertainment based like products globally, I think is going to be make or break.
Yeah, you kind of. Personally, I'm not like working in obviously marketing and seeing the other type of, I guess, entertainment based stuff. It's like that has kind of came and gone or whatever. Like you look at music festivals with like kind of COVID and whatnot, or just like concerts and stuff. But now they've came back and they're like selling out, you know.
Yeah.
It might just be like you've got to find what makes motorsport great and get it out to more people, to be fair, because, you know, like I show people, you know, my race car or like show videos or stuff of it, and they're like, what is that? And I was like, I have to explain to them. It's not not a dune buggy. But once they kind of figure it out and they actually look, like, oh, you actually race? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, you can see the whole track. I was like, yeah. And then they're like, a couple of them have got subscriptions just watching Speedway in America, but, you know, they obviously don't really know where it is here.
Yeah.
But the more, like, it's just, they find it entertaining because they can just watch it and be like, there's a couple of hours they can watch and they wouldn't normally do it. But they don't, I guess, in terms of, they're like kind of F1 fans or whatever because they know that exists. But they've just said, if more people I think if more people know about it, that would be the main thing.
Yeah, because like I've said it a bunch of times, and I will continue to say it heaps. So, like, you'd obviously remember Boxing Night at Speedway City.
Yeah,
like that was just absolutely electric, just packed to the hill. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, so any event that had like 10,000 plus in the crowd or standing room only was kind of just good to even be there. Like, I wasn't even racing, I think, back then, and like you just go there because it's, you know, it's got to be a good event.
Yeah. There's just something like, I don't know. I just remember like going there and it's like so many people and everyone's just like, I don't know, everyone's probably had a big day before too with Christmas. So like everyone's probably food comas and that. And then it's just like the pit gate would open and that first sprint car gets pushed out and it's just like, oh man, we're on. Like there's just something about the whole place. It's just like, yeah.
No, well, it was really good. Even like at Easter time too. Because it's like something around, like you're not just running a race meeting, you're creating an event. Yeah. And that's what like kind of, like you look at like, like you look at like big tracks that have great like events, like, you know, the Classic, or you've got even the Easter Trial and stuff. They still have their club shows as well where they don't get many people in the crowd. It's a part of like the balance, but they run it that they know they've got their big 5 main events. And that's what they put themselves, like, put all their effort kind of into. Like, even got the King's Challenge and things like that at Mount Gambier.
Yeah, like, I actually had this debate with someone the other day online.
Yeah.
But it's like, Knoxville's the same.
Yeah.
It's like...
They have their weekly shows.
The weekly shows the grandstands aren't packed. But then for the nationals, just for some unknown reason, that one event of the year, the town just goes crazy.
Well, I can tell you why that would be one event of the year. It's because that's the one that's promoted.
Yeah, that's right.
Like you could pick any speedway track kind of thing, and if you create a big event, you promote it or put something behind it. Obviously, you can't do it every week.
Yeah.
Because not only the diehards have got to come every week, and they'll come whenever, but you can still advertise it every week.
Yeah.
But those big events will like, showcase, I guess, the sport to not just the wider community, but that's when you might have more people streaming in. Like you look at Chariots, for example, great event. Like it's over the 4 nights. Obviously, I only go to Chariots when it's like that big event. But then chatting to other wingless guys there, that like when it's a club show or whatnot, I said, "Does this many people always come every week?" And they're like, "No." But that's what the track obviously understands. They know they've got their big events, and they plan for them accordingly.
Yeah. Because that's like the hard thing. Like you're never going to get a casual fan just going to the classic. Like it's to go to Warrnambool for that weekend. There's like it's quite a big investment. To go for the weekend. Like obviously accommodation gets jacked up through the roof.
Yeah.
So which I found out last week, which I've already booked mine. So,
yeah.
Funny how either side of it, it's like, oh, actually no, because the Australian titles it's jacked up for like 2 weeks. But,
yeah.
But you're never going to get like a casual fan go to that event sort of thing. But yeah, you can probably do things to get them start coming to the smaller shows and.
Well, yeah, if they just know about it, like they might think, oh yeah, this is something that's, if you've got 500 people in the crowd, and you think, okay, we're going to like open it up to like, I don't know, bring your partner for free or whatever, or something like buy one, get one free or whatever. You get those casual people in and they're like, oh yeah, they might come to those bigger events or they might come back to another local one and pay.
Yeah.
Like obviously working in international branding, brands grow via obtaining more, we call them light buyers. So they're like people that buy your product once or twice, which make up the majority of the market. I can guarantee if I was to look at every single person that attends Speedway, there would be not many people that are attending every single event. There'd be a lot of people that are attending 1-2 events or maybe, a couple of different tracks. And it's how you can get more of those people in.
Yeah.
Essentially that will grow the sport. So you do that via, you're like what you're doing here, which is great, obviously with sitting down and chatting, but you do it via like just advertising to the masses, and hopefully that you can get more of those people in. And the reason why, you're probably thinking, well, no, hang on, there's heaps of diehard fans. There is, but they only have a finite amount of resources, right? So
yeah,
you say that they can go to 10 shows a year, like, that's what they can financially invest in. Like, that's their 10. If you try and get them to go to 20, that's going to be pretty hard. But if you can get 10 other people to go to 1, it's a lot easier to do that. And they might come to 2. So it's easy for them to come to 2 events rather than trying to get that guy coming to 10 to go to 20.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I actually had this conversation with my dad years ago at Clipsal. We were walking around and I seen a family, so mum, dad, 2 kids. I'm not even kidding, from head to toe, and even the camp chairs that they were on was all brand new Triple Eight gear. All of it was brand new. And I was like, man, like that must have cost an absolute fortune, and they've come here for the weekend. And then my old man was like, they probably don't do anything else for the year though. There's probably no family holiday or anything like that. Like that's the one thing that they do of the year, and like to some degree, like Clipsal's, that event was guaranteed their money because they're going to go every year and probably do the same. Like they're not going to go to another one, or they're not going to, that's just be the one thing that they do of the year. So
yeah, exactly. So you like translate that to Speedway back in the day when you had Boxing Day and like kind of Easter. You might have people that come to those 2 events, and maybe they come to 1 or 2 more during the season.
Yeah. Like I guarantee you that there's people at Speedway City on Boxing Night
that would only come to that event. Yeah,
because of the World Series name.
Yeah,
guarantee it. Like, and as much as for some unknown reason, there's a debate raging about that the name should change, and it's not technically a World Series anyway. It's like, whatever. Like,
yeah, but is World of Outlaws all around the world? No, it's in America. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a name. Like, it doesn't really need to have meaning. It's just it's associated with a national series, race and sprint cars. People that have been around the sport know it.
Yeah.
And it sounds pretty cool.
It's the same as like World Series baseball. It's just all American teams.
Yeah, exactly. so it doesn't really need a name.
It doesn't.
Doesn't need that meaning.
No, and that's like it's just it's branding as well. So, because I mean, like you probably would have seen it as well. There's, you know, obviously in its location, Speedway City, and then, you know, demographically the suburbs that surround it, there was people that would come to Speedway City you wouldn't see the next night at Murray Bridge. Like,
No, the same with most speedways, to be honest. Like, there's not. Obviously, we come from a different kind of perspective as we like the travelling diehards.
Yeah.
Obviously, being a racer, you've got to travel to. Obviously, we put on the show, but a lot of those events, I can guarantee, if you do some market research, they'd see the majority come from those towns or areas or surrounding, and it's like, you know, you look at the tracks that are doing really good. Generally tend to be the ones that are closer to the city or well built up areas, which kind of sucks when they're closing down tracks in, like, you know, cities or like locations that are whatever. But the only way you can kind of counteract that is, well, how can kind of, I guess, promoters look at other ways they can generate revenue, and that might be through live streaming or actually doing it properly. I don't know how that kind of works at the moment, or basically trying to run big events and, you know, having to promote it. There's a lot of free ways that they can promote things to the masses and be able to get people to just come and travel, because it's not just, you know, it's not like your like sport that you can just, you know, pay a season membership and go. There is no season memberships offered in Speedway. You pretty much go, pick what meetings you want to go to.
Fuck.
And yeah.
Nah, it doesn't matter. Whatever. It's not targeted to kids. I would buy a season pass for like Murray Bridge or something.
Yeah, if they had it, like, you know.
I'd do it.
Well, I reckon there'd be a fair few people that might actually do that if you just say, well, a season pass gets you, you know, 10 shows, or maybe gets you 12 shows, 2 for free.
Yeah, it ends up being
or you give you, or
scan my gold card on the way in. Yeah.
No, there's so many cool things that you could do, like, with, if you're a promoter of a speedway, that could get extra people in it. Like, you know, season pass gets you 3 guest passes. You can give them to whoever you want.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
like,
one of my things, is like trying to drag people along, eh? It's like so hard.
Well, I chat to all obviously other drivers too, and they're like, obviously all the family like knows your race or whatever, and like, you know, you're trying to drag other people to the event, because we do it for the love of it, but I know that the speedway wouldn't exist if there was no one in the crowd watching. And it's like, working in marketing, it's sometimes frustrating being like, you know, like, just get more people to come once, you know, like, bite the bullet, half price tickets or something. They'll all come back eventually, because it's
the thing that I always thing I always think about with half price tickets is like, you'll make your money back on the canteen. Like, you know, that, obviously can't guarantee that, but you'd assume like you could make your money back doing that or something.
Well, yeah, it depends. Like, I don't know what the fixed costs are at running a speedway kind of thing, but like any promotion you run with actually a product, normally if you sell it on a heavy discount, you lose out. But if you talk about like kind of the frequency of people that might come, if those people that are buying those tickets at half price are people that haven't been to Speedway before, or 2, might have only gone once before, it's quite easy for them to go again, because they've got some more disposable income. Whereas you might lose out on the person that's coming 20 times, or, you know, if there's 15 events at your local track, they go to every single one. You will lose out for one event for them, but all those extra people that come in that wouldn't be there, they might tell their mate, oh yeah, this, like, you know, Speedway kind of, this was pretty cool. Like, you know, I saw some crashes, or I saw some fun stuff.
Even like a season pass or something. Like, I know people do it with like Adelaide Oval stuff. They lend the season pass to a friend to go, and then they're still going, and they're still spending money in the canteen or something. So it's not like
exactly.
You're not really losing out or anything.
You never know. It's, you know, it's prepaid, so maybe
your money's guaranteed, isn't it?
Yeah,
Doesn't matter if they go or not.
You got your money up front.
Yeah.
Just needs to be managed some way. But that's obviously the promoter's way to
gold
do that.
Cards. I reckon gold cards is the way. I'd be flexing my gold card around Murray Bridge like no tomorrow. Like,
oh yeah, it was. Yeah, it's just something cool that could happen.
Yeah, could be under something there.
Yeah.
I didn't actually really want to talk about what's happening in another state with Speedway.
Oh yeah, it is.
Maybe we should take it over.
Yeah, just quit my day job of working with international brands, and, you know, we'll create our own international brand.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. There's so many things to promoting, and obviously, yeah, not knowing the ins and outs of.
It's hard, like being from. I shouldn't say like. You jump on social media and you see like all the comments that people are making, but it's like you don't actually know the backstory of how, one, what are the fixed costs of running a speedway? Two, what are the kind of negotiations that are in place? Maybe they, can't say stuff or whatever for whatever reasons. Like, three, you got to remember they're promoters, they don't own the facility. So like, as I've, if you got an investment property, I kind of chatted before, like, you're renting something, hoping it's up to scratch. If it's not up to scratch, you don't it's not your responsibility to kind of fix it. It's the landlord's. But yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but it's just a bit disappointing because it is one of the closest tracks to, suburbia kind of thing that was left, and I'm sure that it.
Well, it'd be the only one now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because everyone thinks the Motorplex is close to.
Oh, I did, yeah. I had that conversation with Daryl the other week, and he said, "Nah, it's
no,
not."
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's a good 2 or 3 hours out from like kind of any. I shouldn't say any civilization, but it's not as close as everyone might kind of think. Which you know.
Is that a weird thing for you too? With like, you tell people to like try and come to Speedway, and it's like Murray Bridge is only an hour up the freeway, and they're like, "I'm not travelling an hour," but they'll drive like 45, 50 minutes into Adelaide Oval. Like,
yeah,
it's bizarre to me. Like,
it's more or less. It's more they're like, oh, what time we got to get there? And I was like, oh yeah, this time. Oh, what time does it finish? Like they're just asking these questions, and I'm like, well, I don't know. It might be like 7 hours. They're like, oh, okay. And I was like, you don't have to stay for the whole thing. But then they're like, well, we kind of want to watch the final race.
Yeah.
But they don't want to stay there for 7 hours. And I was like, but you're quite willing to spend 4 times that amount to go to, Adelaide Oval.
yeah.
But you're not quite willing to travel, and it's the same distance. They're like, yeah, but that's over, and we know it's kind of done, and we can go grab some food after, or I was like, but you can do all that in Murray Bridge. But they're like, yeah, but it finishes at like 10:30 or maybe 11 o'clock, and they just don't like driving home. Which I was like, fair enough, but
yeah, I don't know. It's weird because it's the hard thing is that the way that we look at it is just because we're diehards, we just do it.
Yeah,
like. We just or you're bringing the truck home or something like that. So it's like
we've just got to drive home, and if the meeting goes till 10:30 or whatever, and like you don't end up getting out of there till 11:30 or whatnot, just is what it is. But like the average, it does wreck you on a Sunday because obviously I drive, wash the car that night. Sometimes I get home at we'll be back here at like 2 a.m. And then it kind of wrecks you the next day. But the average fan doesn't really want that.
No. You can't put that on them.
No, because then they don't come back. They're like, oh, it was too tired. Like,
they'd be like asking the regular fan to go mow Adelaide Oval before the game or something. Yeah. They'd be like, that's not my job.
Or it's asking them to pack up the stadium.
Yeah,
If Adelaide Oval finishes at like 10, a hard finish at 10 or 10:30 or, it's like saying, oh, can you pack up all your stuff? And like, you get home at 2 a.m. The average fan's not going to want to do that. Or they just, to be honest, I reckon if Speedway could finish at 9:30, give the option of people coming in the pits after, it'd be quite interesting to see how many more people would come back for a second meeting.
I'd say probably very good majority. Very good majority.
Like in Darwin, like obviously it's a lot warmer there, which people love when it's warmer. They don't go to sleep as early. But they're like fans would walk through. I didn't even realise it finished at like 10 or 10:15. They thought that was pretty late. Like they were obviously a bit disappointed that it was finishing late, and I was like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
right. But there was so many fans walking through the pits afterwards, and I think even there's been times that we've been at Murray Bridge and it's been like a club meeting. Hasn't been many people kind of in the crowd as what you would like probably normally expect, but they finished at 9:30, and I was like, oh, cool. And then I was like, hang on, there's actually people like walking around the pits afterwards, and it's like, it's finished early, and people that would never have seen before, like a family with their kids just came up and said, hi, how's it going? Like sat in the race car.
Yeah.
But they won't be doing that at 11:30 at night.
Nah.
No.
Yeah. That's one of my things. I wish people knew more about how approachable like 99% of the drivers in Speedway are.
Yeah.
Like there's not, I know obviously you would, but if some little kid comes up and asks like, can I sit in the car? It's like, go for it, mate. Like,
as long as it's not the car's not like too hot or something. Like,
Yeah.
as long as it's safe for him to jump in, I'd be like, jump in, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
if it's still in one piece after the meeting and I haven't broken it in half, go your hardest. You
I
can't
wish
wreck
people
it.
like knew more about that sort of stuff because you're never going to get that access in like vet supercars.
No, I don't think any other form of motorsport really. You can just go up to someone's pit area and say, "Can I jump in your car?"
Yeah. Well, I spoke to a guy last night. Won't mention his name. He said you actually can in rally as well, which I had no idea about. He said because they like from what I understand and I've seen before, I could be wrong. They're pretty much just like obviously at the end of the day, they're just like under a marquee kind of thing in a car park somewhere, and people can just cruise around.
Nice.
And roll
Well,
over and,
that's how it gets people kind of involved in it. That's probably that's how this like promoters could look at it and see how classes can grow too.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Someone could be walking around, jump in a car and be like, oh, I like this.
And I do not understand. So me and Adrian Cottrell were speaking about it because I filmed his at Tail and Bend in the pit. So that pit there for the support categories had the Utes, the Touring Car Masters, the S5000s. That's a live public area.
Oh.
So he's
better.
like,
Yeah.
so he jumps in the car, starts it up, drives through the pit with like public all around him to go to the dummy grid. He's like, how does it happen for like support categories in V8 supercars? I understand that you can't do that in V8 supercars because
they've got their pit lane and stuff, you know.
you'd probably have some fan jumping in the car with like Van Gisbergen
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
So I understand, I fully get that, but the support categories are just roaming around the public.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Like, I'm not sure how insurance kind of works for that or what not, but like
It
there's
would have to be way more than Speedway, surely.
Yeah, but there's no reason why you can't have a little fenced off area in the pits that people can come and watch and, you know, just get a little bit closer to the action. Because, you know, if the event goes for a real long time and it's the first time they've been there, like, it would be pretty cool if they could walk up even to like a little section in the pits. Like, it might be fenced off so it's like public only, but they could just look and see someone working on a car.
Yeah.
Because they don't see that anywhere at all.
No. No. Especially, like, a lot of the tracks, just due to their, like, I suppose it was, like,
Layout, yeah.
Yeah, their geographical layout. You don't get that.
Yeah. It's just, I shouldn't say it's just disappointing, but it's just a way that you could get more fans involved, get more drivers on track, and then it benefits everyone kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm 100% on board for it. So how many years have you been in the wingless now?
Don't quote me on it. It might be 12 or maybe 11 years. Like, I might have jumped in it.
What did you say before? 2012.
I think so, or maybe 13. I'm only going off based on what my actually chassis is, and that's 2014. And I know I got that relatively new, but I'd raced a year before that, so maybe 2012, 2013.
Yeah, right. So you would have done a couple of seasons at Speedway City then?
I think I did 3. So, yeah, I still remember my first time I ever jumped in a...
Did that shut in 2015? Or around then, 2016, something like that?
I think so.
Shit.
It might have run I raced, obviously, still there with...
Nothing open wheel could run there, eh?
I think so. Then they run like 3 meetings or something, like a year after. It was kind of a bit of a challenge, but the last full probably season, I think, was 2016.
Yeah, right. Shit.
But yeah, it's been a while. I still remember the first time I ever jumped in there. Dad was like, you know, first time in a wingless, like, you know, you're in the field, like, or in the field, or just like, you're off the back, and Wigsel was off, like, you know, right in front of me. And he's like, just follow him through. First corner, we're like, yeah, great. He gets up to about, like, you know, 14th, like, overtook a few cars. And I was like, oh, I managed to follow him through. And then his car cuts out on the front straight. Obviously, me being brand new, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm catching him. And then I'm like, oh, I'm catching him a bit too fast. I drove straight over his right rear and, like, barrel rolled it, I think, 8 times down the straight. And I was like, nice. I was like, welcome to motorsport, yeah.
What was that? Was that your first heat?
That was the first feature.
Yeah, right.
So obviously I didn't realise the whole night. The fact he was back there, he was having issues.
Yeah.
Because, like, the next feature, like, I've seen him, like, just start off the front and absolutely, like, win by, like, just mow everyone. He was like, you know.
I remember, like, being at Speedway City and, like, thinking, like, man, if I knew that Todd was coming tonight and I owned a wingless, I just wouldn't be coming.
No, he did, like, it was real. It's obviously, like, we've been pretty lucky in SA to have, like, the top quality of caliber drivers that we've got. Even at the moment, like, someone joked, like, the other day, like, saying, oh, how many, like, you know, Australian title cars have you had like in SA? And I've like, well, we've had like 5 or probably 6, I think, like different. I think it's been at least 5 from memory. Like obviously Chadwick's won 2. I don't know if Wiggs will won 2.
Yeah, I think.
Obviously Rory Button back in the
So there's 5
day as well. So that's at least 5.
Yeah.
But then the caliber of cars that even we've got now, someone said, "Oh, like who's got the hardest competition?" And I was like, "Well, I feel like I have to go interstate to get my confidence up." Like, there's just the problem. I shouldn't say it's a problem. It's a good problem to have, but
Yeah.
all the new people that are coming into wingless racing like 20, 25 like dirt kart shows a year, and they're full on. Like they're like drop green. They're go. I reckon we've got some of the hardest competition to actually race against. Because even like you've got kind of like obviously Tyson jumping in. Like really, it took him like 6 months maybe to get up to speed, and now he's won the South Australian title 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Even Joel. Before I'm not sure what he's actually doing, if he's semi-retired or whatever.
No, he's not retired. You can't use that word.
No.
He's just not,
semi-retired, or we'll just
no,
taking a break.
He's just not driving.
Okay.
That's
Okay. What's he like on a break?
That's the technical term.
Yeah. But yeah, even he's just chatted like before. He's just said like there's 5 or 6 or 7 cars that could go to most tracks and be competitive. Like Furler, really, like Ryan Furler, just won the Prelim main here. I think he qualified 3 at, was it the last Australian title, like off 3? And he's just come from dirt karts. But there's a lot of other people that are doing that, and it's, they're pretty switched on as drivers. And it's obviously great for us.
Yeah.
Locally.
You would have seen too, and I spoke to Daryl about this, like the caliber of car has just come so far, probably more so in like the last 5 years or so. Like,
yeah. A lot of, obviously, like running tie bills and selling a lot of parts to people. The knowledge of actually what it takes to put a car together has really increased a lot over the last I reckon 5 years. I don't know if COVID actually helped. People had some time to sit back and think like, how does this stuff actually work? But the types of questions I'm getting, like if I make this change, what does this do? Or like what's the difference between running a 50 and 53 beam? Or if they're asking a lot more technical questions, and like obviously I can answer them to an extent to them, but I'm like a lot of it is trial and error, and because they're coming from dirt karts where they would race 25 shows a year, they actually test a lot of things in dirt karts. They move their axles in and out. They actually they can make those changes, and they're doing that to their race cars and evolving, and they would rather a pretty car, I shouldn't say pretty, but a really reliable car that won't break down. And obviously they're putting a lot of time and effort into that, because with something like where they'd come from, like in the form of dirt karts, they only get an off season of maybe 3 months, where here they've got a full 6 months. So they strip their cars down to nothing, put it all back together, make sure every single nylock nut is great. And then they're obviously putting it back together, and that's really increased, obviously, as I said, the last 5 years. And it might be because, personally, I think it's because it's actually wingless is quite an affordable class for what a lot of these drivers are coming from, unless you obviously crash. But to run an engine, you can do 35 shows, if not more. To freshen one up, I don't know, it'd be under, obviously, Jack McCarthy does all my engine stuff, but I don't know what it's costing for people to freshen up, but the actual materials to freshen up an engine's under $1,000, and it's obviously labour kind of on top of that. It's when you blow them up that obviously they cost a lot, but if you divide it over the long run, if you're doing 35 shows roughly, if not, some people I even have told me they've done 50 shows on an engine before they've got it touched because the compression's been alright or whatever. And if it's only costing, say it's $5,000 to freshen up, obviously that's the higher end of the scale, but you divide it over 50.
Yeah.
It's what's it, $100 a meeting maybe? It's not much at all.
Yeah, in terms of motorsport, yeah. Yeah, there's not really anything else out there that's...
So, the fact it doesn't cost them too much, they're actually investing a lot in other things, and it's even like just the wraps on race cars and stuff.
The
like,
wraps is getting so good, eh? Like, yeah, and like that's the sort of thing. Like, you look back to wingless from like 10 years ago plus. You know, there are a lot of like, like farmer looking race cars, and now like this, the look of the class has just gotten so much better. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, COVID happened and I decided to design my own body kit, like specifically for the wingless. And you know what? I did that because it was just fun to do, kind of thing. And there's obviously a few other people now running that same one, which I'm like, it looks pretty cool seeing some other colours on your body kit. But yeah, I think it's the fact the initial investment of an engine doesn't cost that much, that we can afford then to spend money in other places. But all those things that they're spending money on are really a one-off buy. So it doesn't actually, like, it's obviously a sprint car costs, I don't know what a new engine costs. It's over $100,000.
Yeah.
It's up there.
Yeah.
But then obviously their running costs a lot more.
Yeah.
Like, they buy all the same stuff we can once off. Like, your titanium bolts, your maybe like better shock package or things like that. They're the things you buy one off unless you wreck them. And that's what wingless is kind of, a lot of people can afford to do because the engine isn't as, expensive. I reckon there's some winglesses that you could probably drop a 410 into, and if it still had the wing posts on, because obviously we grind them off because we don't really need them, but if it still had the wing posts on, you could probably put some wings on it, and the actual running gear is, if not better than some of the sprint cars going around. And the simple fact is the drivers have got a little bit of excess money to spend on those things because they're not spending $100,000 on an engine.
Yeah, I've had that conversation with a few people. I think there's, obviously not every sprint car and obviously not every wingless, but there's,
there's some really good ones, like
the top tier like winglesses are, some of the best race cars in the country just outright.
Yeah, it's obviously great to see. But yeah, like I think I saw someone drop an engine in Darwin, and I was like, I don't know how, I should have took a picture. I don't know how, it just looked like it was obviously a Buick, but it actually looked like a race car engine. Like, they'd really cleaned it up. It looked nice. Everything was like, custom made kind of thing for it. But he said, he was worth spending, like, whatever he did on it, because he said he plans on being in here for 50 plus shows.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, wow, I made my stuff look kind of old.
Yeah, everyone's like sort of really stepped their game up with all that sort of stuff. Like, I think I was looking at Jack's car yesterday. I'm pretty sure his pipes are ceramic coated and stuff. Like, like it all looks great. Like, it's done. Obviously in the budget's there or sponsors or whatever, but yeah, obviously it's not happening all the way through the class, but it doesn't happen all the way through sprint cars either. So,
well, the good thing about that kind of is you don't need to spend it. Like, obviously myself and Jack have very similar exhausts. Mine are obviously all nice and ceramic coated too. But it's like, you don't need to spend all that stuff to be fast, but
yeah,
you kind of can do it because like it just makes stuff last longer, kind of thing. But that's what's really good about the class at this point in time is you spend all that stuff, it's a one-off buy. It's not going to make you win a feature. Like, it will make it more reliable. And some people argue, yes, reliability wins races. Which, if you're confident your car can do 60 laps flat out and have no issues, you've got to go in with that little bit more confidence. But
yeah,
because if you look at the actual people that are winning, you'd probably be surprised like how much, the initial outlay of stuff costs, but the average running of their car is probably very similar to, someone that might be from like fifth back. The only difference is maybe they bolt a new tyre on every so often, but that's the same expense for like sprint cars versus wingless versus, anything else that has to buy new tyres. But yeah, I just said at this point in time, it's really affordable kind of for people. And I think that's why the actual class is kind of growing as it is. But it's just going to be interesting what happens in the next
couple of years, yeah.
Next couple of years, yeah. Maybe the class is actually getting too big. I don't know. Like, I don't mean too big as in, hopefully tracks don't start limiting the numbers.
Yeah. Well, that's what I spoke to Daryl about, because that's what, the rumour keeps going around that, like, some of these promotional teams are knocking back wingless now because too many of them come. And Daryl said that he hasn't come across that yet, but, that's potentially on the horizon with the amount of cars that are, coming now.
I guess, but then I would throw it back on the promoter to be like, well, why do you want... If you can have 60 wingless at an event, why do you want 20 from 3 classes? Because by the time the A mains or the mains come, you've got a C, a B, and an A.
Mm.
You don't have 3 different A mains.
Yeah.
And running, the amount of laps that... If you look at an event by the number of laps that have to be had on the track, you're better off having 60 wingless there than, say, 3 different other classes, because you run less laps and the event will actually go kind of smoother.
Isn't it funny that it's something like the classics, like, it's cool for 100 plus cars to be there at the classic in one class, but it's like another class is going to have 60 plus and like everyone cracks the shits over it. Like,
well, the classics actually, I think they're limited by how much room they can fit in the pits. So I think that's why they run it over 3 days. So
yeah, because it just keeps growing and growing, yeah. Yeah, because I think it was like last year, if you didn't make it to the final night, your hauler had to go.
Yeah, so it was like, obviously, I went there for last year's classic, obviously. So the haulers weren't in the pits, the same ones weren't in there twice.
Yeah.
So the first 2 nights, like if you were on night 1, you raced, took your stuff out, let the other guys come in, they raced, and then if you made the final night, then you came back.
Yeah.
Because it's just too big.
Yeah. Can you lift that up? Because it's killing me that I can see it slowly dropping in the corner of my eye. Sorry, man.
No stress.
It's like bugging me bad. Yeah, well, that makes sense because it's obviously the space. Because I think the King's Challenge, weren't there guys out on the highway or something?
That's always very... I think that's actually limited.
Yeah.
I think they had... Well, it's hard to... I can't remember exactly, but the pits definitely were packed when we were there.
I thought someone was out on the highway there with their hauler, but it's
Wouldn't be surprised.
It's not necessarily a bad. Well, it's not good, but it's not a bad thing to sort of have either.
No, you'd rather have more than less cars, to be honest.
Yeah. So obviously, we got to talk about it because you race wingless.
Yeah.
the engine saga. What are your thoughts on it? Where do you see it?
I don't necessarily see it as a saga, to be honest. I just think a decision needs to be not necessarily made soon, because it's locked in, I think, till
2028.
2028, and then it's got an extension to go for a bit.
It's got a possible of a 2-year
longer.
extension. That, so yeah,
I think
2030.
Yeah, which is like 7 years from now.
Yeah.
I think a decision needs to be made in the short term of how you can make it a little bit easier maybe to source some parts. Obviously, I don't know, as I said, what parts are hard to find, because I've got an engine and it gets rebuilt.
Yeah, you've got
parts get found. I really take care of it. Like, I would put CRC through the bores like every meeting. And it just needs normally some rings and maybe some seals, and that's pretty much about it. And it goes again. But I'm not sure how hard it is to source a new one. But I hope they can find something that, if there is a replacement, find something that the Buick can still race against. So maybe it only has, 220 or 30 horsepower or whatever. But it's something off the shelf that is comparable, so you can race the two against each other. I'm honestly not sure what all the insurances and going V8s and this and that. But just make it comparable so you can race the two. And then, guess what? Naturally, one will have to die off when you can't find the parts anymore, and then you just progress to this newer engine. As I said, I'm not sure what that's going to be. But yeah, at this point in time, there's you can still grab them from a wreckers for $1,000. Yeah, you've got to completely rework them or whatever. But I don't know what else you can find that you could get 50, 60 plus meetings out of. They're pretty reliable, but the only reason when they seem to go bang is when someone doesn't put enough oil in it, or too much oil, or they don't keep them maintained. But yeah, if they can find something that's pretty reliable, like the Buick, I guess, and it will allow those people that only race those 5 or 10 shows a year, have it in the shed for they only come out those 5-10 meetings, and still allow those guys to race. It will be good for the class. But as I said, I don't actually know what's gonna happen. I'm quite happy with what we're actually got now. It's just if they can find
just the longevity of it, eh?
Yeah, it's very controlled in a point that it's actually quite hard to find parts, from chatting to obviously my engine builder. But if they can find some aftermarket parts or whatever that could just help it be a bit easier to make, then it would be fine. But I said I don't know. Like obviously seeing Daryl talk about the Buick's here to stay, I was like, you know what, that's actually great because if they need something, maybe I can obviously develop parts, but it's like, how far do you go? Like, I don't want to go too far into it. Like, as I was saying before, rear engine mounts and stuff that I order in. There's a lot of guys building engines out there still at this point, or even I sell sumps as well. I probably sold 30 in the last year, and obviously I said, oh, what are these going on? And they're like, oh, brand new engine. So obviously still building them and finding them somehow. It just is costing more because some of the stuff is harder to find.
Yeah, because it's it's a very old engine essentially.
Well, yeah, actually it's quite old, but I think I could be wrong, but I think they still use essentially that block and heads over in the US in a modern type of.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me because it's a what's the word?
It's very well built at the time.
Yeah, it's a very well built motor, and it's very sort of basic and it's relentless.
Yeah,
it is it's an absolutely relentless old motor. But yeah, I don't know. Like I've said before, the hard thing for me is watching USAC shows to then watching our stuff. But
yeah, to be honest, it's just they should just tell everyone they got to run smaller mufflers, so they sound a bit better. Just the drones of some cars, you've obviously got you hear say McCarthy's car going around, or someone with a 6-into-1 exhaust going around. It just sounds a bit better than straight out kind of exhaust that sound a bit doughy and
sounds like some dude doing a burnout down the road.
Yeah. It's the sound of them. If there was a way that you could make them sound a bit better, I think they do put on some of the best racing possible. When you've got the top 5 or 6 drivers, obviously in SA, and they're doing slide jobs, even at the 60 lapper. Was it this year or last year? We won't talk about this year because McCarthy might get a bit upset. But the year before that, when they were throwing a lot of sliders and stuff, it was fun to watch.
Yeah,
and you can obviously do that.
I was sitting on the couch watching Chariots and the wingless, man. I had a ball watching it. The racing was absolutely great.
It was actually fun to race.
Yeah.
You'd go out on a track knowing that, one, it's not going to be watered right before you go out there. But two, you knew what the track was going to be like. Basically run the fence or expect to go backwards. Or try and tighten your car up so much and just maybe run half throttle on the bottom. And you wouldn't think how the hell can you go half throttle in a wingless? But that's how slippery it was on the bottom. How dusty it was. You'd be running around half throttle and someone would be running right up the fence, flat out, and you'd be able to race up against each other, and it would be just fun.
Yeah. See, and to me, that's one of the beauties about watching Speedway is watching that sort of stuff is and then trying to convince people of that kind of racing. Just, I don't know, it's just so hard.
Yeah, if you could. Basically, if every track in the country could be nice and slick and not take rubber, wingless would, you just see a different, wingless racing would be a lot better than what it is. When it's flat out, we just hold the things flat and, we're running as fast as they can go.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But when the track starts slowing down and the bottom isn't faster than the top, type of thing. So if you could run, say, ideally, if you had a track that, was kind of, I guess, pretty worn out, and you graded just the top, you'd see all the wingless cars would race up there. Someone would try the bottom. It might be actually just as quick because it's a slower way around. But yeah, it just makes for great racing.
Yeah, because you quite often see Mount Gambier just rips the top, just runs the tiller around the top there.
Yeah, no, I can't fault Mount Gambier. Every time I go there, the track's just amazing, and they put in the effort there, and it's a nice little facility.
Yeah, I hope Bill's teaching someone.
Yeah.
Needs to write a book on it or something, eh? That's what. And I don't know. It's track preps. It's like
I should say a dark art, but yeah, it kind of is.
More or less is, isn't it? Like it's just Like I don't.
It's a hard one. Like you've seen tracks go completely resurface it, and then there's like just been worse than it was before. You've seen tracks really do nothing for a while, and then the track just really comes good.
Yeah.
Like, from someone else curating it, and I don't know what they do to prep a track, or I have no idea, but I know what a track I like.
Yeah, yeah. Like there's stuff that goes into it earlier in the week has to be critical, surely.
Would think so, yeah.
Like, yeah. Not that I could say. Like I said before, I can't even drive a grader, so
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not, I hate throwing shade at like the track prep guys, and and then to some degree too, though, it's almost the thing about speedways that the track does go away or something like that. It's just what.
As long as the track doesn't take rubber, don't care.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what.
It'd be fun to drive on as long as it doesn't take rubber.
Yeah, I have my theory on that with sprint cars. I think I was talking to Adrian about it, how sprint cars have to run a turn down.
Oh, you mean on the muffler?
Yeah, like surely all that heat going into the track does something.
Maybe. To be honest, I just think the tyres are too soft, because where does the rubber go?
Yeah.
They're like, got 30 cars out there, they come in and their tyres are just all melted. That's not flinging in the air.
Yeah.
That's getting stuck on the track.
Yeah.
So if you run a harder rubber, more will stay on the tyre. And guess what? Everyone's running a harder tyre, so no one's got more to gain.
Have you ever seen the old oil tracks from America?
Yeah.
What is that? I tried to research it and I couldn't find anything on it. I don't understand. I've seen photos of it and it looks...
I think it's like, so they also do it with like dirt circuit over here. It's like a tarmac. They just add some, I guess, oil to it to keep the dirt down, like the dust down, basically.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, they run super hard tyres, obviously, on it. It's not tarmac to an extent. It's just oiled.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I tried like researching it, and then obviously like those words that you're putting into it, Google just has an absolute meltdown. But yeah, I've seen like photos on Facebook of like sprint cars on an oil track, and it's just like there's just stuff going everywhere. So it's like, yeah, you're probably right there. That's what's biting into the clay, and once it's into it as well.
Well, yeah, you've got to
trying to get it out.
Well, how do you? You have to take all the dirt out and put new dirt in.
Yeah.
So I just think I should say like the tyres are probably just go harder tyre. Everyone will get used to it if everyone's got the same thing. Like everyone's got the same thing now.
Yeah.
Like just it might actually make stuff last longer. Like Australia's got the softest tyres and the smallest track, and we still run. Look at World of Outlaws. They have, I think 20 cars in their A main. Track's double the size. Ours, they run a harder tyre. Imagine 20 cars coming with a soft tyre and less track to run on, which means by less track, I mean width, not who cares about how big it is.
Yeah.
Less width. If everyone's running on that same bottom or same middle groove and they're melting their tyres more, of course it's going to wear out faster.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's actually harder to be a track curator, I would say, in Australia than it is to be in the US.
Yeah, because the weird thing I see like on the streams and stuff is the start of their night, their tracks are like, I don't know, they're not like all juiced up and like going out in the mud to try and bring it in. It's like they're bang, ready to go from word go kind of thing.
Yeah, I reckon, I don't know what I assume like they would have both. Like what we see on the streams is probably like Warrnables and like Perth or whatever, the real good tracks. I'm sure there's some that like, maybe aren't as good, but I just still think a harder tyre, if more rubber's staying on your tyre and not going into the track, it makes everyone's life easier.
Yeah, and it probably depends on too what's there as well. Like I know that like the late models and that sort of stuff, they like more of a juiced up track.
Yeah, there's just so many cars in America that makes it fun. I think they have some tracks are like more known for late models. I think late models is actually bigger than sprint cars over there.
I heard someone say that once before, and I was like, nah, no way. And then I did do some research into it, and there's like pockets of America where like, dude, like you mentioned the word sprint car, and like you're gonna be in trouble because there's like late models are so big in certain parts of it, and it's probably bigger in more parts than what you'd actually realise too. Like,
Well, yeah, you're like, for someone who doesn't know speedway and they see a sprint car, like you like see this with like wings or whatever. Like the funny thing is, when I got this made, like what they put on the drawing, they called it an aeroplane car.
aeroplane car.
So obviously that, so you laugh, you laugh, but like you know what? That's probably what it looks like. I said, oh, can the wings be like this? So they
Aeroplane
put on the drawing airplane car, and I was like, okay, you know,
car. That's heaps better than a buggy though.
rather than trying to tell them what a sprint car was, just went with it. But like, if you show them a late model, that looks like a road car, and they think, oh yeah, race car.
Yeah, sort of some resemblance there. Aeroplane car. That's gold. That's heaps better than. I'd much rather cop that in the street than those buggy things.
Yeah,
like,
a buggy with wings.
yeah, you race those buggy. You go watch those buggy things. Yeah, I used to cop that all the time at work. One guy used to say it just to rev me up on purpose.
Yeah.
Aeroplane car. That's gold. Yeah, late models are like I don't know. They're a different breed. I really thought they were going to take off in Australia, but it's sort of.
I don't know. It's hard to. I obviously don't know what the cost of one involves are, but I think our tracks are just maybe a bit small.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I thought that too, and then a friend of mine said to me, well, how come they can get them going in the dome? They do that.
Oh yeah.
They get them going there. And that's like...
It might be just sheer numbers. Like, just number of, like... They've got so many classes over in the US when you look at it. You're like...
So do we, though.
Yeah, but I don't think we have the numbers in each class or the
No,
actual
of course not.
population.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. The population is what makes everything big over there. So, is there anything that you've wanted to drive that you haven't yet?
I don't know. I always thought about, you know, asking one of my cousins just for a shot in one of their sprint cars on a practice day or whatnot. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know. Probably not. Like, I shouldn't say I'm not too fussed on it, but like, yeah, I'm quite happy just doing what I'm doing and for a bit of fun. And yeah, like, to be honest, I would race wingless probably forever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm obviously not going to go out and win no Australian title. I know where I'm probably going to finish in most like, you know, most features. I'm probably like 5th back or whatever, but I know where I want to be. But I do it for a bit of fun, to be honest. Like, yeah. When I first started, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to have all this ambition to do like, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, I now do it for just like, you know, have fun like with my mates at the track. Like, what else would I be doing on a weekend? I actually get bored in winter to be like, you know, this is absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
Like, what do normal people do, like, on the weekend in summer? I don't know, do they just drink wine and have cheese? I don't know.
Watch movies. So, obviously, the other part of, like, your racing is you own TI Bills, which is, like, just, it's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, so Ty Bills was kind of set up, you know, because when I first started, it was bit hard to find some parts, and I actually missed a few race meetings because, you know, I couldn't get the parts. And then I was like looking more into it, and I was like, well, there's only 2 or 3 people kind of make parts or whatever. And then I had some locals here that like wanted some stuff, and I was like, you know, I'll give it a crack. Like, obviously I work in international branding and marketing. I don't have an engineering degree, so, you know, don't hold me to it. But I like obviously doing a lot of research as a part of my job. You start, like, when a new part kind of comes out, like I obviously do all that testing for it. But yeah, that was set up in a way to just help make, I guess, parts more accessible to everyone. And obviously doing it in the back shed basically means I don't have those overheads of having a storefront. But then people obviously can understand, you know, I'm not costed as high because I don't have those things. And I just want to see more cars on the track. That's my like goal. If I can, you know, if I can get 10 more people interested in wingless and they buy some parts from me, great, and it helps them save some money and they can spend it on other things and it helps the class grow. That's all that I'm really kind of there for. And obviously, yeah, I do like, you know, pretty things and developing new stuff as part of the fun. But yeah, it's more or less something that I just want to see. I want to see the class around for a long time. And when I first set it up, I was like, I need to help out in some type of way. Because if you're relying on, I guess, 1 or 2 key suppliers that, let's be honest, they price matched everything. So, you know, they were the same price on everything and it was just going up. And I was like, well, this is not, you know, I came in, developed some of my own stuff, set it at what I thought was a reasonable price. Obviously, that business is actually kind of set up like more like I shouldn't say a charity, but it kind of is. So basically it works off, if I make a little bit of money like the previous year, that then gets invested back into like, so obviously the Thai Bills State Series that we're doing in SA. But each interstate last year, I did this it was called Thai Bills Lucky 10. So most of the states, all they had to do was like pick 6 or 7 race meetings and pick whoever finishes in 10th place kind of thing. They basically hold up a sign, take a picture, and they get a $50 voucher to spend on the web store. So I think, and obviously we sponsored, say, Chariots the year before that. Just basically spending as much money, putting it back into Speedway, because that's what it was kind of set up for.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, which is not... It's a bit different from, I guess, other businesses in a way that, I guess, if I shut it tomorrow, it wouldn't cost me anything. It's set up more for the love of the sport. So, and I just want to see the wingless class around for a while. And even sprint car events and stuff too. Like I've thought about obviously throwing some money behind that. Obviously I know where a lot of my drivers come from. So like where my customers come from and what they race. So if I know it's actually it's a bit of a bad business move because normally you invest money where your customers aren't. But from a loyalty perspective, if like 90% of my customers are wingless, I'll put that money back into events that help them get to the track or whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of fun, to be honest, and
And you get flash gear with it. You get all the shiny stuff.
Yeah. It's a bit of a fun, But it's more or less. I like the idea of designing stuff and like even with I'm developing a front axle at the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone would think front axle for a sprint car, wingless. Yeah, they've been around forever. They're all the same. But I actually got like 5 or 6 different brands. Had fun crushing them to see what I tried to break them. Under how much pressure. And see, it was actually surprising. They actually are made of different material, which, you probably wouldn't be... From an outsider perspective, everyone thinks they're probably all the same, but they're not. So I had fun crushing them, seeing, and then I've obviously
what did you do with the... You put them in like a press and...
Essentially, a press with a gauge on it.
Yeah, like press tube?
Yeah, pretty much. And I just crushed the outside edge or tried to bend it and see how much force it would take before it bent.
Yeah, right.
And some of them... bent quite easily. And I was well, some people tell me they don't crash these and they just race them and they bow. And I was like, now I've got some numbers behind that to show you.
So without naming...
Yeah, well, obviously I'm not going to name anyone, but there's big brands that, like one of them cost like $550 for that axle that I bought, and I tested it and I was like, okay, this is clearly a brand name from the US that people buy it for the brand name.
Yeah.
Because it was not as good as the $300 one you get in, or $350 one that you get in Australia. The Australian one was a lot better.
Yeah, right. And then you've obviously got all the data there in terms of like metal compositions and stuff like that.
Some of them weren't even made of chromoly, which was quite interesting.
Yeah, and they were being sold as chromoly?
I don't know. No, they just sold them as a front axle.
Right,
they didn't really say.
Yeah.
They just said like chrome plated.
Right.
Didn't list the material, so nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah,
the average person thinks they're made of chromoly and they're not. But at the end of the day, I've like just designed a part that I think will last longer.
Yeah.
Hopefully, not have the same issues that some others have, and will be a bit cheaper for everyone.
You haven't like revolutionised the design of it per se. Like it's not like it's
not. It's nothing crazy. It's just basically a replacement part that should last longer, unless you obviously bin it.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And what's the you got a price point on what they're going to be around yet, or?
I'm honestly not sure at the moment because the dollar's doing crazy things. Yeah. Like everyone sees it goes down by 4 cents or whatnot. But if it's only at 60 cents and it's say it goes down by 6 cents, that's a 10% increase in price once you divide it all up and work it all out.
Yeah.
But it will definitely be very competitive on price. It's just a matter of how many do I get in versus how long have I got to, I don't want to get that many axles that I haven't for 20 years.
Yeah. Well, it's a pretty common sort of part. And,
yeah. Common, but as I said, how much storage room have I got?
Yeah, that's the thing, I used to work for a guy who wrecked cars, and I remember some of the stuff that he was crushing, I was like, man, and he's like, dude, how much? How long do you keep stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I'm not keeping those black VT doors for 30 years time, and someone wants them for a resto. He's like, yeah, you got to draw the line somewhere. So
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
Obviously, the more I order, the cheaper they are. But then it's like the more I order, then do I need to then create a storage facility, and it costs?
Yeah.
Then it boosts the price up, and it's like,
Yeah,
well,
and then you
that's
go
not
to
what I'm there for.
you go to the shop front side of things, and yeah. No, you definitely switched on with all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of fun, I guess, at the moment. And yeah, if it can help someone out that might not necessarily be able to afford like the super like new parts, or I shouldn't say new, but the expensive ones, and they can buy two from me for the same price, and they're pretty much the same quality or whatever. Then it gets another car out on the track, and guess what? We've now got 20 cars to race against, not 10. And then people can spend money on other stuff, like, spend some more money on stickers to make your car look better, or,
Yeah,
buy, like, better gear.
yeah. Buy that new tire or something like that. Yeah. So you stand by your products in that sort of sense, because you've gone through the R&D process with them all.
Yeah, so pretty much everything that's on my car, I sell to people, and some of the stuff I don't sell to people, but that's because it's being tested on my car at the moment.
Yeah.
So like say torsion bar bushes or whatever, I had to have them on a season on my car before they went out to the wider market. Same with, obviously it's great now. I've got, obviously, well, everyone's got to know this now. Jack tests a lot of stuff for me as well on his car. Obviously, yeah, he'll give me feedback on whether or not it's good or, to be honest, bad. He doesn't say those exact words when it's bad, but yeah, as long as it doesn't
Really?
yeah. He's really a perfectionist, which is actually kind of good for me in a way, that if he says, you know what, this part is really good, yep, I'm confident in using it, I know no one's going to be as picky as him. That it's going to be great for the wider market. So we do a lot of testing on both of our cars. And then, once it passes all that, it goes out to everyone else, kind of thing. So I'm confident in every single part that I sell, that it's going to be fit for purpose and should outlast pretty much all the others on the market.
Yeah, right. So what besides the axle, you got anything else in the pipeline, or you don't want to say?
I'm actually trying to think what else I actually have. Like maybe I've got drive lines coming, like some aluminium ones. Obviously that's what's going to go on my car now. What else? Like torque balls eventually. Just some other stuff. Like I've got over 300 or 350 odd products that I sell, and you can pretty much get a car almost fully together, but the things that I would never obviously jump into are things like, your steering box, your diff, or what is it, some other stuff?
Chassis.
Or your chassis, like shocks. Like I wouldn't, like those are things that I would never actually develop, because you've got Pro. You can't. What's the point of me developing a shock when you can just go buy one that's been around for 30 plus years?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm getting close to having all the stuff that I want.
Definitely all the like. How do you probably like? Obviously like a shock's a bolt-on item, but you're gonna have pretty much all the gear for like the second tier bolt-on gear besides that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So all your shock studs or whatever,
Yeah.
like basically every single chassis I've got the shock stud for that you need. Like even down to, I guess you can pretty much put a car fully together with what I've got, minus obviously your front end and your diff.
Yeah.
At that point, like I've got all the panels if someone really wanted to, but most like cars come with panels. Even like rotors and stuff I've been developing, like carriers is probably the next thing. Like it just all takes time, and like people don't quite understand how much R&D you've got to put into stuff, or just test it yourself before it goes out to, I guess, the wider community, because I don't want to skimp out, or like, not say skimp out, is like someone says, oh yeah, they save $50 and buy a part from me, but it's not better than the one they could get for say $300. Because at the end of the day, like, you're saving $50, but I want to make sure that, if something happens to someone's car, like obviously I know racing is like to a budget. We don't have a limited supply of things. I don't want to sell anything to anyone that's like unsafe.
Yeah.
So it has to be like really, really well tested, and I'm confident in everything that I've got on the market at this point in time. Like, basically, unfortunately, I've binned a few cars in my time. Like, sometimes quite through no fault of my own. But I know the things that like kind of bent here and there, but like nothing's been like that unsafe.
Yeah.
So it's all for me. It's about safety and longevity, and obviously I can keep the price down for people. And if that gets more people involved in the class, great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I only, how do I say this? Obviously, like designing something from scratch, and then the process of going through that to then get it manufactured, to then get the first test item would just be a huge process in itself.
Yeah, so like we'll say with what was it? We'll say that the air filter that I developed, like a little box air filter for the wingless, that was, I think, it took a year of drawings to like create up and whatever, and then like at least 6 months of testing. Some stuff like I actually will get flat packed made and actually welded here. So my sumps or whatever get flat packed, and they're actually welded by a guy in South Australia, which obviously, through me doing this, I'm actually helping the speedway community in general, because I know that guy wouldn't have been getting like X amount of dollars because, like he's not doing that welding, and it's quite easy for him to do that. But guess what? It now allows him to focus more on speedway, which he is. And it's helping him out. So by me just selling these parts and actually manufacturing them, or outsourcing the things that I guess companies don't want to do here.
Yeah.
Because if I go to a company and say, oh, can I have like 100 sumps? There's the flat pack comes with 13 different parts. And they're going to be like, well, I'm not going to make, 100 just of this like part, because, I can work for the mines or whatever. And, laser cut all this, and I'm not going to worry about it. But then, like, if someone said, oh, if I can weld all this for X amount of dollars, and I agree there's 100 of them or whatever, and there's, like, by saving that money on the actual material, they're quite willing to weld whatever, because they can do it in between other things.
Yeah.
And then everyone kind of benefits, where if one person had to do that, like yourself, you wanted a sump and you had to create one yourself, like, it would just cost too much.
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing the down work or the crappy work for everyone, and they're kind of, I guess they're benefiting a bit from it too.
So have you like taught yourself like CAD style programming, or like?
It's not hard to. I shouldn't say it's not hard. It's not hard to develop a bolt. Like, to be honest, like, you could literally you could draw them in like on a piece of paper, like, and I could send it off and get it drawn. So for like rear engine mounts and like cotton reels and things like that for wingless specific parts, I've self-taught CAD.
Right.
Not to say it's not without, like, definitely you need the sample and testing process. Like, McCarthy thought it was hilarious at one point. I got a part made up, and I don't know what I did. I thought it was like in centimeters. It turns out it was in millimeters, and it came and it was like the size of a matchbox.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, that's like, lucky it was some rocker covers. Like, I might as well have turned them into a key ring. Like,
it was rocker covers.
They were kind of like, they were just nice and small, like, and I've like never really told no one kind of that. And it was just like,
Have you got them?
Oh, not here. They're actually at, like, with the car at home, but they're just tiny, like the size of a coffee cup. And I was like, well, that's why they were like that price. And I was like, oh yeah, no.
Yeah, right.
Like, you make a common mistake, but like that's a part of the process when I was first learning about it. But I definitely obviously double check all that stuff now.
Yeah, right. That's classic. That's a I don't know. Is that like a good like thing to keep on the desk to like as a reminder kind of thing?
I think they're actually put in a shed somewhere in a box to just not remind me to do that. Like, I still remember it, but it's like it's too upsetting seeing like, do you know how much time I spent on that developing it, and I just didn't check.
I want to see that so bad. That's definitely becoming a clip now.
But yeah, that's all part of the fun, like testing stuff, and like, obviously me working in research too, that's what I kind of do for a day job. Like, do a lot of like market research for people, and be able to do that in Speedway with something I just enjoy is fun too. Like, I shouldn't say, I get more, like seeing someone win with my parts makes me feel kind of happy inside to be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I helped that guy win that Australian title, win that South Australian title. Remember the first time I rocked up at like kind of Warrnambool. I was watching the Australian title there, and I just looked at all the cars that were in that main, and it was like one car that hadn't bought parts from me, and I was like, that is cool. Like, you know, everyone there's got at least something that I developed on their car, and it's all just because, like, you know, they're kind of mates as well. Like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, the community's like very thick on that side of things, isn't it? Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, like sometimes people would come to me and be like, "Well, have you got this part or whatnot?" And I'm like, it's in the shed at home, but you know what? Just take my spare.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's exactly the same as what I would sell anyway. Like, just take it. And like, there was been a point that you know I'd given away my spares and then needed something, and I was like, oh damn.
Yeah,
but
right.
part of the fun of it, I guess. You know.
So how much gear are you carrying to the track now?
Well, fingers crossed the truck can get, you know, the truck's been a 7-year process, but that's obviously me changing my mind on things and whatnot, but assures me the next 3 months it's going to be kind of fully finished, but I reckon I'll take at least one of everything of what I've got. Some things 2 or 3. But yeah, like, it really depends on, a lot of people actually, because you can jump on my website now and they do like trackside pickup.
Yeah.
So sometimes I go interstate to Victoria and there might be like 10 or so people that are pre-packed their stuff and they have it there.
Yeah.
Good thing about wingless teams now, I guess, is, or even sprint car teams, a lot of them are set up anyway to have one lot of spares if something does go wrong.
Yeah.
It's just if a lot of stuff goes wrong, then that's when they'll come to kind of tracks. And I guess that's how everyone's learnt to evolve in the speedway community from the racer side, because there's not really a parts van at most venues that we go to. There might be when the sprint cars are on, like you've got the obviously Maxwell van, or if you're interstate, you've probably got the Queensland Speedway Spares van, or like you've got those things there. But a lot of people are developed enough to have their own type of spares already set up and ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably like come with the professionalism of wingless as well. That's probably what's growing like the last sort of 5 years as well.
Yeah, as I said before, like it's the fact that, you know, everyone's got more stuff available to them, and I think that they've got COVID actually helped the wingless class a bit. I think in terms of there was a lot of people that during that time really upgraded stuff. Because they weren't racing. Like, you know, unfortunately for all our friends in Victoria, they were stuck home for a while. There was a lot of people that were just chatting to me and developing stuff, or not developing, but just upgrading things that they said they would never have done if it didn't happen. And now they're racing a lot more. They're like, oh, the car lasts a lot longer, or, you know, and it's just because they've spent the money on it, kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Interesting. All right, man. Well, I love it. Like, watching from afar, obviously I don't know the nitty gritty. You'd be the only one, but everything that you're doing with TI Bills, I just love watching it, eh? Like, just seems to be such a great thing for the sport, and like you said, the stuff that you're putting back into it yourself in terms of sponsoring events and stuff like that too. Like, I love seeing it, eh?
Yeah, it's, like I said, it's like, you know, I should say it's like just fun, but basically it is. Like, at the end of the day, if it doesn't make any money, it doesn't make any money. I just want the class to grow, develop parts that last longer, that are affordable, but then also give back where I can. Like, it's just, I love wingless racing that much. I don't know what else I'd be doing on the weekend, as I said before. Like, I actually have no idea what I would be doing if it wasn't for racing. But yeah, I really just want to see the class grow, continue to grow. Like, it's got a fair few numbers now. From when I first started, we were racing against like 12 people, and now you get that in a heat.
Yeah.
Like, you rock up to a local track, and you've got 30 cars there, but they're like a different 30 kind of thing. You go into Victoria and you're just like, okay, hang on, this is completely different. They've got over, I think, 100 cars registered, and they're all, you know, completely different. It's just fun to be around, I guess. And giving back to the sport is what I kind of want to do, because if it's not around, what do I do? Like, it's kind of a self-fulfilling cycle.
Yeah.
And you can't just keep taking, like, can't just take. Like, you know.
Yeah.
You got to give back, and like I said, it's great what you're doing here. Like, you know, watching all your other podcasts with different kind of people that, you know, you get a bit of a backstory to what they do without actually... Like, you see someone at the track, like, you're, oh, yeah, their ex-driver drive this car or whatever. But when you chat and see their, like, kind of backstory and what they kind of are doing in their, like, life, I guess, or how they got into it, or...
Yeah.
It's just a cool thing to be around, and it's like kind of like Speedway is kind of like your second family in a way.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. Yeah.
Like it's like I'd go to the supermarket here, and some people just like call me Ty Bill. They don't even know my name.
Yeah, right.
Like, I have no idea. It's like some people just call me Bill, and it's like, well, that's not my name's William, but yeah, they wouldn't know. Like, it's just So they know you're from your Speedway personality, and I think that's pretty cool. In terms of it, but yeah, it's obviously it's really great what you're doing here because
Cheers, man.
No,
it's I think we're like probably on the same sort of page with that sort of stuff with like what you're doing and these like obviously very different things, but definitely the same.
Exactly, giving back to the sport, like giving people that exposure that they might not get, or for me, like allowing that person that might only race 5 meetings a year to race 7 or 8, give them something to race for. Because I was a bit disappointed. Like, obviously, I took some time off to finish my PhD or whatnot, and then I came back to racing, and I was like, "Where are our events?" Like, kind of thing. It was like everything was a point show, and I was like, "Well, what are we racing for?" Like, to me, I like racing for something that even if it's like a double header, like 2 tracks, you're racing for something. Like, rather than just putting all this money into a car and hoping you don't crash. Kind of thing. So that's why we also developed the state series with obviously the wingless SA committee at the time, and they were obviously a bit, they were a bit hesitant, but I do think the first year was a success. I can't remember how many cars actually raced it, how many different cars. If you ask Darryl, I'm pretty sure there was over 50 or 60, given we went to obviously Mount Gambier and stuff and gained some Victorian cars just for that round. I think there might have been 10 or 12 cars that did it all, which is quite good in the first year, but hopefully we can build on that build on it this year, get more people involved.
Those numbers would be rivaling local sprint cars.
Yeah, we don't. No, we like to joke a bit, obviously, yeah. It's a bit hard, obviously, because they've got, technically one of their cars is worth 4 of ours, to be honest. Like, the amount of money they've got invested in, it's been a bit hard for them locally. But it's really good to see they've got a lot more events this season, at least locally. It gives them guys the option to not just have to travel everywhere to be able to go to those big events. So they've got, I think, the USC's back this year.
Yeah, I think.
Or this season.
5 rounds.
Yeah, I think they've got 5 rounds, which gives them something to race for.
Yeah.
Like, they were only getting like 15 to 20 at a club event, but if the USC's on, they might gain a 5 or so from Victoria.
New South Wales,
maybe. Yeah, well, maybe New South Wales. Like, I think, was it?
I think
one of the Attards came a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Jesse was coming down all the time.
I can't remember who's who, but yeah, one of them came down and was based here, kind of thing, and it gave them something to race for. Where they're not going to come for a points meeting, but if there's a little bit of a series on, they're going to come for it. It's the same with every class.
Yeah, it'd be I think with what's going on in Sydney, it'd be interesting to see what happens sprint car wise in Murray Bridge.
Yeah, hopefully they can get some more cars.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I want to say it or not, but whatever. There's plenty of Sydney guys have already been reaching out to people in SA looking for places to park trucks and that sort of stuff and base themselves out of. Who knows what's going to happen in Sydney? They don't know. By the time this goes out, everything could be back on again. So who knows? But it's hopefully we can see some more numbers come and obviously I would hope too that if I had the room for it and the place to do it, I'd take some people in. But you'd hope that maybe some of the wingless guys are putting their hand up to, maybe let someone from Sydney park their trailer up or base themselves out of or something like that.
Exactly. Whoever's got the room. Obviously, I'm pretty tiny here.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling other people to do it and I can't do it, so I feel like an idiot. But yeah.
But we had John Murdy come down from NT. And he raced, I think, 4 of the 5 Ty Bills races. Obviously, he's works in flying flat from the mines.
Yeah.
He's kept it at my parents' house. We obviously helped with his car or whatever. But that's an extra guy that comes down and races. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of sprint car teams with big yards because obviously where else are they putting those huge transporters?
Yeah.
That could
So hopefully we see some of that across some of the other classes as well now. So
Yeah, well, when they've got something to race for, it brings people to the state. Like
Yeah.
you've got your Speed Car Super Series or whatever. I think that's what it was called, and they've got. I don't know if Formula 500's doing a series, or if any section creates a series, even if it's just 3 races, like a tri-series over
Yeah.
3 meetings, it gives people something to race for,
yeah,
and it then allows you to showcase it from basically a section perspective, and then it gets people to come.
yeah,
So it's like the same thing with like running a speedway, run an event. Like if you like, to be honest, I don't like rocking up to a points meeting where I know I'm going to get essentially it costs me money to get in. I get $0. Like I might get a picture of myself holding the checkered flag if I win.
yeah,
Whereas I would rather go to a series where I know I'm racing for some prize money. The top 5 might get something. You've got some contingency prizes or something on offer, and then you go into a series points at the end. So Victoria do it well with their from a wingless perspective with their Super Series.
yeah,
We've obviously trying to develop the Ty Beale Series into something that could kind of emulate that. And then you've got obviously your SummerSlam and things like that from a wingless perspective, like at least locally for us to race. And then I'm pretty sure I'm not sure in WA they do like some fasts,
Yeah.
something. I don't know. But basically there's like 6 rounds or something at the Motorplex that have some type of something's attached to them.
yeah,
Because that's when they decided to give out that Ty Beale's Lucky 10. That was whatever they were doing there. And Queensland obviously have their own thing. They do like a Easter trial. Like they've got their own events, their own track championships. If you give someone to race for, they're gonna be wanting to get their car out on the track.
yeah,
Like Lismore, to be honest, 10 years ago I looked at it and I was like, you know what, it's just a country track. But now the new people that have taken over, 2 years, I look at it, I'm like, this is like an amazing place. They run a track championship, they promote it well, they're doing the right thing. And then guess what? People are wanting to race there.
yeah. People want to travel. Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting time.
It is. It is. I think too, because we obviously have a different perspective on it compared to just like regular punter off the street. We're a lot more involved in it, and you hear different things, and yeah. So
Yeah, like the average punter would probably be like, why are you running? Like, why are you racing around in a circle?
oh, for sure.
I guess getting mud thrown at you.
Yeah,
But then when if you actually come to it and understand why you do it, and if they actually jumped in a car, they'd be like, well, you know what, this is actually pretty fun. It's hard to explain, I guess, to the average person why you kind of do it. But then you look at all the people that really love it, and it's like most of their families have done it, and it's like almost like part of some crazy cult.
yeah. It's just it's generational kind of thing. Yeah.
But yeah, it should be fun. Should be a good season, I hope.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Will. Thanks very much, man.
No worries.
Appreciate your time. And yeah, I'm sure we'll definitely be seeing each other around the traps, being diehards that we are.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get you to some of the Ty Beale's rounds or whatnot, and you'll do some of your magic, I guess, in the pits. So,
I don't know if it's magic.
well, you'll help get some drivers, I guess, some some kind of promote them, I guess, because there's a lot of young kids that are racing wingless that are just coming in, and they actually got pretty cool backstories
Yeah.
from them, and they're probably been racing 12 years or so.
Yeah, it's crazy how long some kids have been,
You look
racing
at
for.
was it? I was looking the other day, and was it McDonough? I think he's jumping in. Was it Macri's car?
Yeah, he's in Macri's car today. Yeah.
No one realizes that he's been over and crewing for Shark Racing. I think for a season or so, and he's given the opportunity. Guys like that you wouldn't know, it's just interesting, seeing everything evolve now and what it's actually going to be in the next 5 years.
Yeah, it's crazy, eh?
Yeah.
All right, man.
No
Thanks
worries.
very much. Appreciate it.